What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Rise Up Rich podcast. I am your host, David Haas, in the podcast studio solo today. No guest, but I'm going to cover a topic that I think is kind of, it's pretty much always high on everyone's radar, which is money and how we make more of it, how we save more of it, how we get our money working for us, how you become financially free. I mean, this is what everyone wants. And I think the first thing that just comes to mind, because I'm just going off the cuff here, is you have to define what financially free looks like to you. So you really want to kind of have like a real clear vision on where you want to go with regards to your life. Like, yeah, everyone wants to be a millionaire, but is that what you really want? Do you really want all the responsibility that goes along with being a millionaire? It's like, unless you win the lottery, if you are making $1 million a year, there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with $1 million a year. You're going to be working, long hours, and have multiple businesses, I'm assuming, or maybe one real big business that requires your attention. Whatever it may be, there's just a lot of responsibility that goes along with making that much money. So I think it's just good to create some clarity around what financial freedom looks like to you. Now, if you're asking me this question 10 years ago, financial freedom to me was getting out of debt. I was like $350,000 in debt, and I was like, just being debt free was financial freedom to me. And then that changed as I reached that goal. And then I started asking myself, well, what does financial freedom look like to me? And for me, like, I've kind of set the bar kind of high. Like, I want to be, in $1 million a year range. And that's just where I think I'd be nicely settled in. But maybe it's just $1 million in the bank. Maybe it's, not having to worry about money. Maybe it's $10,000 in the bank so that you could just do whatever you want, whenever you want. I don't know what it is for you. But I think that's step one, is just to create some clarity around what that looks like, because then at least you have a goal and you can start creating a plan that's going to get you to where you want to go. If you don't know where you are and you don't know where you're going, you're lost at sea. And this is the reason why we do these little tasks, is to figure out what it is that we actually want, so we can develop a plan to actually get us moving in that direction. So I think that's step one, is just create some clarity. Like, what is it you want? Do you want a 3-bedroom house? Do you want a 10-bedroom house? Like, you just have to sit with it and like really create some clarity, and then you can create a plan. And I have a video about how I do my planning, and I don't even know if I stole this from someone or what, but it's called the 5-circle technique, which basically you just make a circle your life, and this is where you would put this financial goal in there, this financial freedom, whatever that looks like. So your life, and then you break that goal down into your year, your month, your week, and your day. And then that way, as long as you are doing your daily tasks that are moving you towards your weekly goals, which are moving towards your monthly goals, or moving towards your yearly goals, of course it's moving you towards your life goals. And that way we can kind of take the pressure off of ourselves, that the goal of becoming financially free can be very like taxing and be heavy. We don't want that. We want to live in the present moment and enjoy the process of becoming financially free. So one of the ways to do that is to just get your scheduling right and get crystal clear on where you want to go. If you want to watch that video, you can go to my YouTube channel, David F. Haas, and I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Things That Get Planned or Things That Get Done, something along those lines. You can find it in there. So watch that video if you want to learn a little bit more about how I plan my days. I'm sure it's not perfect, but it's what I do, and it seems to be insanely effective for me. But let's get into this. Let's get into this issue, because I think a lot of people, we have some stats here that 15% of Canadians, 50% of their income goes towards paying off debt. 7% of their income is going towards just interest, and debt and interest are gigantic portions of where our money is going. So how do we pay less of that? I think the first thing for this is just stop buying shit you don't need. It's like, literally, it comes down to that. Now, I know that's like, this is like a Gary Vee term, and it's like, don't buy shit you don't need, blah, blah, blah. But I think I want to go a little step further than just that, about not buying shit you don't need. At the root of buying shit you don't need is some sort of hurt or pain that you are feeling, and you're using buying expensive things to try and make yourself feel better. This is what we're all about. Do more, be more, get more, experience more. And when we get into this mentality, we're constantly seeking something out there to make us feel better in here. But it's actually the reverse. And it's a reverse for money as well. If you start to feel better inside, then naturally you won't feel the need to go out and get anything. And that is when you turn on the flow of abundance, is when you don't want anything. And I know that sounds backwards a little bit, but it's actually how it works. Once you let go of your desire for things, it'll begin to flow into your life. So at the root of why you're going out and buying a car that you can't afford, a house that's too big, an expensive purse, whatever it may be, is why do you feel the need to buy that purse or those clothes to make yourself feel better? And if you can answer that question and heal from whatever that pain is, then your desire for these external items will go away. And when your desire goes away for them, then you allow them to flow into your life. And this is I'm speaking from experience. This is exactly what happened to me. For my entire life, I was obsessed with making money. And at one point along my spiritual path, I came to this realization that I had to let go of my desire for money in order to allow money to flow into my life. The desire for money was actually blocking me from receiving money. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's exactly what happened. So for me, money equaled happiness. And as I began to heal from my past, I just started becoming more happy. I started allowing myself to feel joy again, and just to be my true self without the use of substances, which I was doing before. And so as I started becoming more happy and I was achieving the state that I was looking for money to get me to, money just began to flow into my life. And that's exactly what you're doing when you're going out and buying shit you don't need. You're trying to achieve a level of happiness, a level of fulfillment, having people look up to you, whatever. I don't know what it is for you, but there's a reason why you're going out there for your happiness. And if you can answer the question to what that reason is, if you can come up with the answer of what that reason is and heal from it, then your desire is going to go away, and then all those things are going to flow into your life, and it's all going to be effortless. And I know that sounds like really easy, but it's not, right? Because you got to go to places that you have probably completely repressed, meaning you've forgotten about them or suppressed them. And it's about doing deep spiritual work, and it's not always pretty. It's not always just gratitude quotes on Instagram and these kinds of things. It's like about doing the deep work, looking at your shadow, that place that you don't want to tell anybody else about, and understanding what pain you are feeling and why you think a new purse or a new car is going to cover up that pain. Okay, so that's number one. That's like the deep emotional psychology of what is really going on when we're buying shit that we don't need. Yeah, it's super easy to say just don't buy shit you don't need, but there's a reason behind that, and that's what you got to resolve. You can't just turn off this buying shit you don't need. You might be able to do it for a month or two, and then, if you don't really heal at the root, it's going to come right back. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, and I'm going to get real practical now. That was the big overall. Now I'm going to get some real practical tips on what you can do to begin to feel this financial freedom. And I tell you, it's a great place to be when you got money in the bank and you're not worried about bills. If pandemic comes around and you don't have to worry about whether your government checks coming in, you're just like, okay, I'm good. Like I got this under control. So it's a really nice, comfortable place to be. So, one is you got to get your money working for you. Okay. So, I mean, you've heard this forever, but what does that mean? It just means you got to start saving money. It's literally that simple. I don't care what level of income you are, how much debt you have. In some way, shape, or form, you need to start putting some money away in some sort of investment fund. I am not a financial planner, so you can take this with a grain of salt, but my investment strategy is I just invest pretty much all of my money into index funds, which is essentially a fund that tracks the stock market. So the S&P 500 is a collection of 500 companies. Index funds own all shares in those 500 companies. So essentially whatever the stock market does is what my index fund is going to do. It goes up and down, of course. My only investment strategy is this. I constantly invest my money into index funds on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. And then when the market dips, I put more money in. That's literally all it comes down to. There is no trying to buy, sell, any of this. I'm just always in the market. And Tony Robbins has a great book called, I don't know if it's Money Master the Game or Unshakable or something. I can't remember the name of it. He wrote a couple money books, but anyways, in this book, you can just read the one, I think it's with Ray Dalio or something like that, that he has in there. And they basically talk about the power of index funds and basically over the history of time, the U.S. stock market has returned like around 10% average. So index funds have super low fees. They're really easy to get into. And the reason that there's no fees is because they're not doing a lot of buying and selling. They're just owning all of these stocks, and they just track the stock market. So you can pretty much, expect to get like a 10% return on average over the long haul. There's going to be years where you might get a negative return, but on the long haul, you're going to get about a 10% return. So like in 2019, my index fund returned 30%. In 2020, it's probably going to be less than that. Okay. So, on average, you're going to end up with this 10% return. This is what happens when you get your money working for you. And if you don't understand the power of compound interest, then go out, right, go home or get on your computer or pull up it on your phone, a compound interest calculator, right? And you can say, if you have this much money and you leave it in at 10% per year, right? How much money is it going to be when you turn 65 or when you turn 50 or whenever it is that you want to feel that financial freedom, right? And just get there. So like, my wife and I have like a really, really strict plan, and this is going to lead into point 3, but we invest pretty much 50% of our income. Okay. So, and what that does is it forces us to live below our means, right? We've like made it forced. So I've always understood the power of living below your means. This was something that my uncle taught me when I was really young. I didn't grasp the concept until I was about 30 years old. So I think he told me when I was like 7 or 8, but sometimes these things take a while to sink in. I had an Instagram post recently that says sometimes you need to hear things 1,000 times before you hear that light bulb. So I'm going to tell you the story he told me, and maybe this will be that moment where it actually sinks in. If it's not, it planted the seed, and then maybe in 3 or 4 years it'll turn on for you. But there's these 2 guys. They both make $50,000 a year. They both drive a used car. They both live in a 2-bedroom house, and they both go out for dinner once a week. And then the one guy gets a promotion. He starts making $80,000 a year, and immediately he goes out and he buys a 4-bedroom house. He buys a brand new car, and he starts going out for dinner 3 nights a week. And then the guy making $50,000 a year one day says to his buddy that's now making 80, knowing that he got a promotion, says, "Hey man, do you think you could lend me $500? I'm a little tight on my bills this week. I can't make my mortgage payment." And the guy that was making $80,000 a year says, "Sorry, I can't," because while his lifestyle has improved a little bit, he's still living that same paycheck to paycheck existence, right? So we need to break that cycle, and you don't need to wait to get to an $80,000 promotion to break that cycle. Basically, the be all end all of it is spend less money than you make. I mean, it's really that simple. It's just like dieting and exercise. It's like eat less calories than you are burn more calories than you're eating, right? That's dieting. Like, everyone wants to be like, oh, you got to get on the keto diet, or you got to get into this savings plan, or you got to get into real estate. Well, no, you just need to save your money, right? You just need to stop eating the chocolate bars. It's really that simple. But circling back to step 1 for both of these is that there's some sort of emotional attachment, and that's what you got to heal from first. But at a real practical level, you got to spend less money than you make. Okay. And so what my wife and I have done is knowing this principle and knowing that if we don't put things in place to protect us from this, we're going to probably spend more than we make, but we've really gotten a lot better. So now we probably wouldn't. But in our younger days, we would have spent more money than we made. My wife was actually great with this. Her mom taught her really well about how to save money and these kinds of things. So she really actually helped me understanding how to save money a little bit more. But what we've done now, knowing that I'm pretty much the spender in the relationship, is we have our money on automatic investments. So every week, money comes out of our bank account and goes into our investment account. It's literally that simple. You set it up at your bank. I make my investments on my own, so I just have an automatic bill payment sent to my Questrade account, and then I just have to buy the shares into the stocks that I'm buying. But every single week, money comes out of my account. And now that I have less money in my account, I can't go out and spend money on whatever. I've really wanted to buy a Ferrari lately. And it's like, now I can't go buy the Ferrari because I'm investing my money, right? And if that money was sitting in my bank, guess what? I probably would have went out and bought a Ferrari by now, or an Audi R8, which is the car that I really want to buy. But anyway, so this just forces us to live below our means. And like I said, the golden rule of investments is invest 10% of what you make. But for my wife and I, and our income levels are higher, so we can do this, but like we invest 50% of what we make, right? So we're just constantly forcing ourselves to live below our means is essentially what we do with this savings technique, I guess. So be all end all though is start saving your money, and you can live below your means by forcing that investment. And if you're young, like if you're listening to this and you're young, man, like one of my biggest regrets in life was I had this awareness, probably from having this conversation with my uncle, that if I started investing really young, by the time I was 65, I would have, a couple $1,000,000 in my bank, and I could make that investment super small. Okay. So I went to the bank when I was 18 years old and I said, hey, I want to set up a mutual fund or whatever it was back then. And the financial planner brought it up. She says, oh, this is really good that you're starting this so early. If you keep up with, I think it was $50 a month. And I could be wrong on this, and maybe it's changed. I don't know. But for me, it seems to be, I remember it at $50 a month. Maybe it was 50 a week. I can't remember. But it was super low. Okay. And she essentially says to me, if you keep up with this super low payment, whatever it was, she's like, by the time you're 65, you're going to have like $2 million. And it was like even if it was $200 a month, it's like, man, that is so little amount of money. Now, if you're 40 and you want to have a couple $1,000,000 by the time you retire, you're going to have to invest like $2,000 a month, right? So it's just like those early years are so important. So when is the best time to start investing? Right now. That's it, right? So it's like, and don't dwell on it like I did for a while. It's like if you missed out on those 20 years, no big deal. Like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time to plant a tree is right now. Okay. So the reason that I don't have all that money now is because I took the money out of investments to use for opening up a business, doing these things. But now my wife and I have like a rule that money in investments never leaves, right? So doesn't matter what opportunities come around, doesn't matter anything, that money stays in our investments. The one thing though that does happen is when you have money in investments, it's an asset essentially. Well, of course it's an asset. It's cash. It's like the best asset there is. So when you go to the bank and you want to open up a business and you need a business loan, they're going to look at you way more seriously because you have this money in the bank, right? So when you go to get that mortgage and you have $30,000 in investments, this makes it easier for them to approve you because they see that you're, financially sound and you have this great savings record, and it's going to create more opportunity for you because you're going to have more access to credit. So with that, I'll use that into a segue into the credit, which is basically this: never fuck up your credit. It's literally that simple. Keep your credit score, understand how your credit score works. There are all kinds of things in this credit thing that is like insanely important to realize, and understanding every little element of that, I think, is really important for every single person to know. But let me give you the big ones. One is pay your bills on time. Okay? Even if you have debt, just pay your bills on time, right? So the second I think you go over 3 months of unpaid, some sort of unpaid, it creates like a black mark on your credit, and it's going to really knock your credit score down. Okay? Don't have too much debt. Live below your means. The more debt you have, the further it's going to impact your credit score. But ultimately, really, it comes down to, even if you have a ton of debt and you're still paying it all on time, you're probably going to be okay. But if you've gotten yourself into a situation like I once did, I completely screwed my credit, right? So again, the best time to start fixing it is right now. Stop avoiding those collection calls. Stop, avoiding paying that student loan. It's like it is messing your credit up, and you need to start getting it back on track immediately. So the reason that credit is so important is because, again, it leaves you open to opportunity, like buying a house. If the housing market all of a sudden takes a dip and you're like, oh, this might be a great time. If your credit's fucked, you're not going to be able to buy that house. Okay. So making sure your credit stays as amazing as possible is super important. So for me, when I got into all kinds of credit card trouble, I ended up doing some sort of like consumer credit proposal where they negotiated with my credit cards. And what I didn't realize is it was essentially like claiming bankruptcy, even though it wasn't bankruptcy. It was essentially like claiming bankruptcy. And that proposal stayed on my credit for 7 years. So it took me 7 years to rebuild my credit. So those black marks, those missed 3 months payment, even if it was a $10 balance owing to your phone bill. It shows up as like there's some sort of code, and it's dramatically reducing your credit, and it doesn't go away for 7 years, right? So it's like, when you think about that, it becomes overwhelming. But it's just like, if you just make the changes immediately, get those things cleared off your credit, the sooner you get them cleared off, the better. So the best time to start doing that is right away. Get a handle on that, stop avoiding, and just get it under control. If your credit's already good, protect it, right? Just make sure that you know what is hurting your credit. If you go and apply for 5 different credit cards, every time you apply, it knocks your credit score down like 10 points, okay? So learning little things like this will be insanely beneficial when you go and need to get a mortgage or whatever. And this is like another thing about how to become financially free is you want to get your money working for you, and you want to get out of this exchanging your time for money. Okay. And now this is a very entrepreneurial kind of mindset, but you can do this if you have a 9-to-5 job as well, right? You just want to get out of this, I work for 1 hour and I get paid $20, right? There's a million different models, and this is how you can really truly become financial free, is just like make more money, right? It's like, and there's the opportunities to make more money are literally limitless. And I know you're probably thinking, well, tell me some of them. Well, I mean, I can, but it all depends on what you're interested in, right? So I got Juliana sitting in here in my podcast room, and she's recording this thing, and she's like a photographer, and so she works for me full time. But if she wanted to make more money, she could go out and become a wedding photographer on the side and make an extra, whatever, $1,000 a week if she wanted to, you know. Gary Vee talks about buying and selling stuff on eBay, and I don't know. It's about what your passion is, right? But you can find a way to go out and make more money. So getting out of this time for money is ultimately about creating a business, you know. So I have created a business in my restaurant, you know, Treehouse, and that business is a complete example of how I don't trade my time for money. That business runs completely, you know, almost autonomously without me. I manage it in 2 or 3 hours a week, and it earns me a good level of income. This is one way to get out of trading your time for money. Another way would be to trade your time for results. So that's what I do as a coaching client. With my coaching clients, they come to me and say, I'm currently making $50,000 a year. I'd like to be making $100,000 a year. And I say, okay, I think I can get you there in a year, let's say, right? So if I get someone from $50,000 to $100,000 in a year, what is that worth to them? Well, it's not worth $100 an hour. I'll tell you that much, right? It's like, I would say minimum, it's probably worth $50,000, right? Because they're going to be making that $50,000 every single year until eternity, as long as they keep up with the protocol, right? So I probably won't even charge them that much. I'll say, like, I'll charge you 20 grand, right? And make it results based. Okay. So, another way would be to, like, you know, become a landlord. And that is another thing that you could do. It all depends on where your passion is. So you don't have to follow these exact rules. The only rule I would follow was be investing your money, but those are simple. The next step, if you really want to go to like a higher level, is figure out what you're passionate about, create a business, find a job, do whatever that's going to increase your level of income, right? And when your income level increases, then keep your lifestyle the same for a little while. Don't go out and buy the brand new car. Don't go out and buy the bigger house, you know. Don't start going out for dinner 3 nights a week. Live below your means until you feel comfortable enough and have enough little nest egg money saved up to make the leap to the next level. So I know these tips all seem like really simple and easy, but at the root of doing anything great is simple steps. Like, all success is simple. It's just a matter about doing small, daily, consistent tasks. And because it's so simple, you might end up just dismissing it. But if you went through these things right here, the only one I would say is not simple on this list is understanding the root of what you're trying to achieve by buying things, right? Because that is like, requires some deep work. But if you have the courage to go there, you can usually get to the result relatively quickly. So that would be the one thing that requires a little bit of inner work, let's say. But all these other steps, you know, get your money working for you. Start a savings program, right? It's like, I don't care what it is. Like, you can find a way to reduce your income, reduce your expenses so that you can start saving, even if it's $10 a week, right? You can find a way. Everyone can. Don't go to Tim Hortons every day, right? Like, don't go out for dinner. Don't go to the movies. Whatever it is that you need to do. I mean, it's really simple. Yeah. Is it going to sacrifice a little bit of your life? Yeah. But it's like, if you got that lighthouse, you know where you're going, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Okay. So that's one simple step. The next one is never mess up your credit. Okay. So right now, if your credit's messed up, you can begin taking steps to get that credit in check. If your credit's not messed up, then make sure you don't mess it up and create a better understanding of what your credit looks like. That's going to take you about an hour of research on the internet, right? Spend less than you make. I mean, it doesn't get any simpler than that, right? Just get an overall look at your budget. And actually, this is another step that I'll do. The one thing that I did do when I was really trying to get a handle on where all my money was going, I did a budget. And now there's all kinds of apps out there. When I was doing it, this is like 10 years ago, I created an actual spreadsheet on my computer. So what I did was I tracked every single dollar that I spent. If it was $1.50 at the convenience store, whatever it was, every single dollar. At the end of the day, I sat down and I tracked it. Now, you don't have to do this forever. I just had to do it for a couple of months. And once I did it for a couple of months, I had this picture of where all my money was going, right? And anytime there's confusion around where your money is going, or anything, if there's confusion around why you're gaining weight, then start tracking everything that you're putting into your body, right? So this is what I did for 2 months. And I got this real clear picture of where all my money was going. Then I was just like, oh, if I just eliminate going to the convenience store to buy a pop, I'm going to save $50 a month, right? Well, there's your investment. If I just axe out this, I'm going to save this much money a month, right? So it's just like, once I created that clarity, it was really easy to stay on budget and live below my means. And I didn't even really have to, after that point, I've never done it again. And I'm actually kind of feeling called to do it again, because as my income level has increased, my spending has been, I'm not watching it as much as I once was. Like, whatever I need in my life, I just buy, right? Like, I'll give you an example. And now, especially, you have to be careful. It's like, I was watching YouTube with my daughter the other day, and the ads and stuff kept on coming up. And they're like, do you want to go to premium? I'm like, fuck, I just bought it, $12 a month or whatever it is, right? And like, all of these little $12.99 a month, they add up, right? They add up to whatever it is, a lot probably. And I don't even know for myself, because I'm like, I've just, because my income level, I'm just okay. And I'm like, it's not really affecting me. But I know that these expenses are getting out of hand, so I need to bring clarity to those expenses again. So if your expenses are out of hand, bring some clarity to it. Download some sort of app. I'm sure that exists now. If not, make a spreadsheet like I once did, and bring clarity to where every single dollar is going. Okay, you can't do this by just like doing your budget. You need to understand where every dollar goes. Another real simple task, a way you could do is like just everything you buy, put on your debit card, and then you can just go through your bank statement at the end of the month. Whatever, I'm sure there's a million ways to do that. But anyways, bring clarity, spend less than you make. And then the last step is also easy, even though it seems big, is like, get out of this trading your time for money, right? So what business, how could you provide more value to the people that you're already working for that is going to increase your income so that you can stay at the level of lifestyle you're living here with an increased income. And you do that for a couple of years, and then you're going to like literally move forward like leaps and bounds if you're able to do that, instead of making more money than immediately increasing your lifestyle. Okay. So however you choose to do that. So, you can go the extra mile for the people that you already work for. You can start a side hustle. You can start your own business. You can get into real estate. It doesn't really matter what it is you want to do. But if you are able to, let's say, using the Gary Vee model, go yard sailing and make an extra $100 a week, that's an extra $400 a month, right? And if you're young and you start investing $400 a month now, in 30 years, that's going to be you're going to have so much money in the bank, right? And you're going to have that financial freedom that you're seeking. But no one wants to do that, right? And Warren Buffett has this great quote. It's like, and he says, and this is what I'll end it on. It says, Warren, why don't more people follow your strategy for, accumulating wealth? And he says, because no one wants to get rich slowly. And I love that, right? Because what he's essentially saying is that this is how easy it is. Just follow exactly what I do, and you're going to eventually, at some point in your life, and the younger you start, the sooner it's going to happen, you're going to have that financial freedom that you're looking for. But everyone is chasing after the lottery ticket or the get rich quick scheme or whatever it may be. And it's just like, most people overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And this is what you want to be looking at, is the big picture. So I guess that's what would be the sixth step, is have a big picture approach and implement these small, daily, consistent tasks. And you're going to have that financial freedom that you seek. So that's it. Thanks for taking the time to listen to the podcast. Every single Wednesday, we're releasing a new podcast. So make sure you come check that out Wednesdays. And I hope that was beneficial. Leave some comments, leave some questions below, and I'll definitely get back to you.